My grandmother always used to say, if you're losing the argument, light a fire in the lobby. And right now, the lobby is full of smoke. That sanctions motion we just witnessed looks less like a serious legal move and more like a cheap smoke machine, meant to distract from one thing they're clearly afraid of: unsealing. We had that emergency hearing, and for a brief moment everyone was asking, all right, what just happened? Then the filings dropped, and suddenly the story turned into a blackout, page after page covered in ink, with only a few words visible. And honestly, that tells you everything. Here's the maneuver. On the very same day her side asks the court for more time on the unsealing issue, they roll out a sanctions motion like it's a pulled fire alarm, buying time, creating noise. A request for sealing plus a sanctions motion back-to-back is not coincidence. It's choreography. This tactic pulls attention away from evidence and redirects it into a fight over conduct. They're seeking sanctions against two defense attorneys, Brian Friedman and Kevin Fritz, claiming that during an expert deposition, they interfered with a fair examination of their chosen expert, Nicole Alexander. That's the allegation. But the problem is the same one we see every time. The public is asked to simply believe the claim, while the filing itself keeps the critical details buried under heavy redactions. And this isn't a small ask. They want the full menu. Punish the attorneys. Force the expert to sit again for up to an additional hour. Make the other side pay for it. Punishment, extra time, and a bill. That's why this feels like leverage, not clarity. It's pressure. It's about forcing the court to referee adult behavior while the substance of the case stays concealed. Now pull back and look at the timing again. Earlier that same day, her side sends a letter asking for more time before unsealing. Two major motions have been sealed since early November, and people have been waiting for them to see daylight. Instead, the message is essentially, give us more time, keep it sealed longer, and then, right on cue, the sanctions filing lands. That tells you the goal. Change the subject. Move the spotlight. Because the moment you say sanctions, the conversation stops being about what's sealed and starts being about who was rude during a deposition. It's a perfect pivot and a very convenient one. That's why I keep calling it a smoke bomb. Sanctions motions don't even need to win to be effective. They just need to land. They pull the judge into managing the room. They pull the audience into choosing sides based on tone and attitude. And they drag the case into a debate over behavior instead of evidence. It's the oldest play in the book. When the facts are clean, you let the facts speak. When the facts are messy, you start arguing about the rules. That's why the deposition moments matter. That's why the Jamie Heath excerpt matters. Those kinds of transcripts turn into chaotic arguments. Who gets to read a document? Who's interrupting? Whether the record is clean? How much time is left? Whether someone went off the record? Then there's a break with minutes still on the clock, and everyone walks away angry. Those scenes serve one purpose: creating chaos. And chaos is useful when you want the judge and the public focused on conduct instead of content. Then comes the Nicole Alexander dispute, tied to a call with the judge. And once again, the public is given a story with missing pieces. We're told things went off the rails early in the deposition. We're told it affected the examination. But evaluating that claim is nearly impossible when the filing is so aggressively redacted. That's the recurring issue. The accusation is loud. The record is quiet. And the redactions are the giveaway. Not because redactions are always wrong, but because how they're used here forces the public to guess. You're told the conduct was improper. You're told it started early. You're told it ruined the deposition. But you're not shown the full context. So the filing becomes an exercise in trust. Believe this. Assume that. Fill in the blanks. And that might be acceptable if they weren't also asking for punishment, extra time, and money. You don't get to demand consequences while hiding the story that supposedly justifies them. Then layer in the September 29th email described in the motion. According to their filing, that email was the turning point. It starts with complaints about objections and interruptions. Then it escalates into claims about questions involving Blake's personal life and marriage, paired with threats of protective orders and sanctions if it happened again. That's a serious allegation. And it's also a powerful narrative device, because it instantly frames one side as reckless and the other as protective, even though the full context isn't available to the public. That's where the double standard argument comes in. They invoke protection language for her, while simultaneously pointing back to damaging allegations about him from years ago. The message becomes, don't ask her certain questions, but keep him under maximum scrutiny. That's not neutrality. That's narrative control. Add in the control theme that keeps appearing in this case. The fights over sequencing. Who gets deposed first? Who gets priority? Who gets first access to third parties? That matters because it establishes a pattern. Control the order. Control the timeline. Control what gets seen. And when the schedule doesn't go your way, file something loud. Then there's the third-party hypocrisy, which really lands with audiences. They were deeply concerned about not burdening certain people, especially busy, powerful, well-connected ones. Protect the third party. Protect the schedule. Don't inconvenience him. Treat his time like it's priceless. But suddenly, there's no issue pushing for another hour, sanctions, and fees against this expert, while the public still can't see the full story of what actually happened. The combined thesis is simple. Ask for more time. Keep things sealed. Then file sanctions to redirect the argument toward manners and behavior. Do all of it while the public is blocked from verifying the facts. That's why this reads like a pressure play, not a truth play. They can keep pulling the fire alarm. They can keep redacting the record until it looks like one giant ink blot. But like my grandmother also used to say, you can't hide the smell of smoke forever. Eventually, the curtains have to open. And when they do, a sanctions motion about manners won't save anyone. Before you go, thank you for the love, the views, and the support. If you like how I break down the docket and call out the games, hit like, subscribe, and drop your take below. And if the lively side is listening, don't worry. I can help redact your comments from my opinions in the comment section. That's my opinion.